So again, the importance of office procedures, a lot of times it's too easy. And what I'm finding when I talk with clients is a lot of times they're neglected, they're not paid attention to, they're not systematized. And so the doctor is constantly chasing new patients, new patients, new patients, and yet all these other procedures aren't in order. And those have become very limiting factors, very serious limiting factors. And I don't think doctors are aware of this. And some real simple examples are just even the layout of the office, the communication or which should be the non-communication of staff members to move patients through the office. If you got to communicate to move a patient through the office, that's and again, that's a major inhibiting factor. And a lot of these procedures aren't known when you're going real low, when you got a real low volume. In other words, you can do a lot of bad things, seeing 50, 40, 50, 60 visits a week. You can do a lot of bad things. You got a lot more time and a lot more time to recover, things like that. You can't, a lot of things become very inhibiting factors as you start to get busier around 100, 120, 130, especially when you try to go above 150. You got to have a lot of procedures in place and well-trained. Another example is not having the notes done. And what happens is it just gets too easy and we lose kind of discipline. But like another huge practice inhibitor is when you don't get something as simple as not getting your soap notes done when you're done with the patient. If you actually have to take time out afterwards or after work or come in on the weekend, you got a bad procedure. And because that's a huge negative feedback loop. Nobody wants more business, more new patients and patient visits if they have to stay after work and do extra work that should have been done during hours. So that's the importance of all of these procedures we're talking about. And really it's making it a fine-tuned machine. The analogies that I always use, and they're very good analogies, is if you're self-employed and you have not watched the Ray Kroc movie, and I can't think of the name of it offhand here, the recent one they put out in about 5, 7, 8 years ago with Michael Keaton. Man, I sat in that movie and everything about franchising and systemization was so true. How when they started, they had all these franchisees doing everything different, just creating chaos and limiting the business and the brand and the growth. And I'm like, boy, that is so true. So we want to pay a lot of attention to that. And the analogy I go is it's like the Henry Ford factory. Well, you never would have heard of Henry Ford if he didn't have these tremendous systems in place with high efficiency. Because there are a lot of other car factories at the time. People don't realize it, but they didn't have all these efficiencies. They were hand making cars, and it was Henry Ford who created the line with efficiencies, and he's the one who brought the price way down to make it affordable for the common man because of all these efficient. In other words, his profits skyrocketed. And that's what I did. I learned early. I saw doctors going in every direction and it limiting their profit. I mean, I had a doctor call me one time and he's collecting $1 million a year going bankrupt. He had 33 employees. Well, what does it matter if you collect $1 million a year and you don't have any profits? It doesn't matter. So, that's when I learned real quick. I mean, don't be doing everything, just have it a streamline. Because remember, we've got minimum time. We don't have 8 hours, we have 4 hours. You got minimum time to see patients. And so that's why we just streamlined everything, high efficiency, high layout, space, labor, equipment, communication, training. I mean, it just my office just totally reminded me of what McDonald's did when they had the ribs restaurant. They sold, I think, 36 different food products or something. And then they looked at the profit one of the McDonald's brothers looked at the problem and go, wait a minute, it was Pareto's law. 80% of the profits were coming from 9 products: hamburgers, cheeseburgers, Coke, shakes. And he goes, that's all we're selling. And that's how it became McDonald's. High efficiency, high profitability. That's why we're paying attention to all these systems, because that's what we want to do. Okay, having said that, let's move on. And there's all of them. So we're covering all of these systems for efficiency.